In this episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Lee MacGregor of MacGregor PR. And Lee will be discussing how you can grow your tourism business through the power of public relations. Welcome to episode 227 of the Digital Tourism Show.
Thanks.
How are we?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. Well, thanks for joining. I'll get this changed as well so we'll not get an animated thing behind us. There we go. So, again, thanks for joining us. So, it'd be good to know a little bit about yourself, your business, and what it is you do yourself.
Well, I'll go kind of.
And how did you get into PR in the first place?
Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted by the candy canes here. It was a really roundabout way of getting into PR, but I think that's quite common for people in this industry. So I studied design from school. Mm-hmm. My degree is art history and English.
Nice.
But the three of those things actually I use on a daily basis. Not art, I don't analyse, Renaissance paintings. Yeah. But it's that ability to kind of delve beneath the surface of something and read the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. There's also quite a lot of kind of cultural information that comes from doing a degree like that. English, obviously, writing is something that you have to do in all different forms on a daily basis. Long writing, caption writing, grammar, spelling, all of that kind of stuff.
The stuff I almost starting school.
And then the design stuff, how sort of everything's become much more tech in 20 years. Just going right back to my sort of first job, if you like, in PR marketing, that I didn't have a mobile phone, didn't have a computer, my company didn't have a website. So the design side of it's actually working really well. I design my own website. I can design graphics for Instagram, and so that's really. I had a computer at college, but I didn't have one in my real life. So my first sort of real job was having a guest house in St Andrews with 5 letting bedrooms, and we had no website. I don't even think we had business cards. So it was 4 years of doing that and sort of learning the trade. I'll talk a bit more about that later. Then I went to work at St Leonard's School in St Andrews. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. So I was there for another 4 years, and it was an all-girls boarding school, and it was changing its identity in the time I was there. So it went from being all girls to being co-ed. The time that I came in, the boarding side of the business was, almost gone. I think they had their lowest numbers ever. It was like a third of the numbers that they'd had at their peak. So they had to do a rebrand, and I was there at that time when they did that. So they brought boys in. They had day. They wanted to really compete with the day schools in the surrounding area. So I watched how there was a director of marketing, a director of development. So someone trying to get money, someone spending money. And I was kind of watching how all this was going on, sort of assisting both of them. And then all the money was spent, the budgets got cut, and guess what? Guess what comes in at that point?
Yeah.
PR.
Yeah, PR, yeah.
So PR I didn't even know that I'd been doing that in the guest house, but it kind of started to make sense. It was more about having relationships with there was all sorts of teams. There was sales teams in China trying to bring boarding students in. But there was, we knew there was families that had older girls with younger boys, and we didn't want them to send them to the other school. So we had to do much more intimate marketing with them. So I started an in-house newsletter. I think I did 21 by the time I left. And this again was just going out with a camera, finding stories. It was a bit like being a journalist as well, working in PR. You have to kind of do that stuff. Yeah, and then partnering with the local press and kind of getting them on side. They're not this aloof all-girls school that doesn't have anything to do with the people of the town. So sort of integrating with the community. So that was when I thought I really want to do this. I want to do PR, but I'm not really that passionate about this. Education just wasn't really exciting me that much. So I thought, I'll move to Edinburgh, I'll join an agency, and then I'll start my own. And pretty much that's what I did. So I joined an agency that just happened to be fab at the time for food and drink clients. So I launched Martin Wishurt's Cook School. I worked with the George Hotel. I worked with a ski company. Premier and Edge. So I had some really great clients, but it was a 9 to 5 job. I couldn't really go out without asking the boss if I could meet clients. Had all these crazy ideas, but no, you can't say that. They're not spending enough money to suggest that we do that for them. So I thought, well, okay, I'll go on my own. So I went out on my own. Actually spent 6 months just doing research and getting to, because I thought, I'm quite new in Edinburgh. I can't just storm in and sort of take over and start working with people. I had God, what are those names of those clauses where you can't take your clients that you had at an agency? Yeah, so I couldn't do that, which would have been handy because I could have got a couple of them, but it didn't happen that way. But in a way, that's quite good. So that was 11 years ago. So I've kind of built up what I'm doing slowly. My reputation's built. I've built my reputation slowly. Over those 21 years, so many things have changed. You can imagine, from no mobile phone to now having, I mean, I'm so glad I haven't even looked at my phone for about 4 hours. I've got every single perceivable way of people communicating with me. I mean, it'll be Google Maps next. I'll be driving here and something will pop up, you know, your clients in this region, would you like to go and visit them? So, yes, I hope that answers your question.
To be honest, it's a way a lot of people started out in business. I was exactly the same.
Yeah.
Or get fed up with the people I was working with, and very much thought, well, I could do a better job.
And then you start your own business so that all your staff can get fed up working with you.
Yeah, Jess left, so there we go. No, but from experience working with so many tourism businesses, no, I've typically found that PR is one of these things that they tend to think last about, because they want to get on Facebook, they want to get on this and that, social media, and they just want instant sales and everything else. So how do you persuade your customers that PRs can provide really long-term value in terms of what they're doing?
I'll answer that in a sec, but just really quickly, a thought's popped into my head. So, PR should be in my opinion, you shouldn't really know about it. If you're working long term with a PR company, they shouldn't be obvious. They're taking the glory, the client, I mean, not the PR agency. They're sort of steering under the radar, coming up with good ideas, encouraging. They should be knowledgeable about what it is that they're helping you with. To a certain extent, I mean, I was talking to a guy who's Land Rover's 4x4 tour agency. Obviously, I wouldn't have a clue about running that business, but I understand what I'd be looking for if I was, deciding to go on an adventure holiday. There's this sort of common sense elements to it. And it does get a bad rap because it's spending loads of money, or you're just going to spend all my money. You're going to make me buy cases of champagne and invite every journalist and blogger and influencer within a 50-mile radius, and then we're going to have no coverage from it. There's an element of that. Yeah, you have to have a spend, but actually, what's more important is investing your time as the client into what you're doing. When I'm saying as the client, if it's just you're a one-man band and that's your business, you kind of have to set that time aside right from the offset. That's the best way to do PR. My best clients, the ones that get best results, are the ones that invest time to speak to me, to give me to work with me on ideas, to give me content, to give me things to work with.
Give PR and just leave it, let them go off with it.
I'm brilliant. Go and do some PR on me, but I need you to then So going back to just what your question was there. And yeah, there is I think, did you say people want instant sales? That is one of the most common mistakes that I come across. We've got 50 tables to sit in the restaurant this weekend on a Friday night, getting that message. Or if it's a hotel, it's the 31st of May. June's looking really quietly, what can we do? What are you I'm not saying it's impossible to do something, because that's not true, but I've been sort of asking you for things, for ideas for a while, or let's plan in advance, let's get a bit of strategy going on here. But if you do find yourself in that situation, which you do sometimes, you've overlooked it, you've been busy, staff have been on holiday, whatever the situation is, it's the way you approach it. It's this panic marketing, which I see, and it sends shivers up my spine, and you must see it all the time. Yes. Yeah. Why is someone on a whim going to spend £200 plus
Without
just because you've asked them to. I mean, no. So this is when it becomes sort of the and I'm going to go on to talk about storytelling, but that kind of thing really comes into play when you can be a bit more creative. And if you feel confident really being yourself and really giving your business a voice, that is the time to use it. So be more, just be inventive. And if you really do want to go down the sales route, be bloody obvious with it and say something like, I've got 4 tables free tomorrow night. The first one to answer this tweet gets a kiss from the chef and pudding on the house or something. Just rather than we've had a last minute cancellation. If you ever see that, that's absolute rubbish because no one's ever.
So that leaves me because I don't eat pudding, so that's going to be.
Unless it's a restaurant unless it's a restaurant that's genuinely booked up for forever, you can pretty much say that that's. So yes. So how do I convince clients that it's best in the long term? I can't really convince them. I have to prove it. Mm-hmm. So often it's just a case of them knowing who I've worked with and seeing other things that I've done, and reputation alone. I've secured accounts where I've never actually met the people in person, but they've seen what I've done and they've had recommendations from people. But the really first thing to do is to get super clear on who you are, not just what you are, so who you are. And that sort of human element, that personal element in any business you can think of, unless I was saying that earlier, it came into my mind, you're selling medical equipment to another, even then there's human interaction. So if you've got, if all your sales are purely done online, and you've got a bot answering everything, and there aren't any human beings to buy the ticket for whatever it is event that you're going to, if you've got a tour company or something like that, there's still, someone's written the copy. Presumably when they go to an event, there's going to be a human being there, unless it's a robotic staged event, which it might be.
Cars are coming, it's going to happen.
Well, that's a whole other discussion. So there's human interaction in all of those, in every sort of juncture of the sales process. So just, sticking to the facts, being clear on your facts, that's all very good, but you have to add that extra layer to it and some personality to it. And that's the bit that's really hard, and that's the bit that people can find really hard to do by themselves. So that's where an agency can really help you. It's a bit like therapy. But in the sense of I've found clients that have, I really don't want to talk about that. What do you think? And then you have to coax them into it. Yeah. And once you start to do that, I've had some who've gone away and become, who wants to interview me next? Where's the camera? Once you sort of find that voice, it can be really, that also inspires the rest of your team. Or if you're a solo person or just a small company, you can inspire the people that you work with and collaborators. So it's definitely worth making that your sort of number one thing on your list to do. And it says on my website, I think, that PR is the heart of all good businesses, which of course it is. But it is, and it doesn't mean, you've got this flashy agency that you work with. Everyone is doing their PR every minute of the day. If you answer the phone, and it's, I don't know, hello, the Radisson Red, that's PR and that's bad PR. If it's good morning, madam, how may I direct your call? All of these things, you need to sort of look at every aspect of that. I think Amanda and I were talking earlier about how this country in particular, she was saying, is bad for, people assume that you know what you do, and it's the word obviously, I think you used. But obviously, help people. Don't assume people are stupid, but just give them a little bit of help. It's always nice to have something to be reassured when you're, even if you're trying to get put through in a hotel sometimes. If I want to change a booking somewhere and you've got to go through a few departments, what a difference that can make to your perception of that business. So look at all of those things. Take a real step back and look at your logo, the lighting. All of this stuff is kind of the stepping stone. Because if you then bring me into your PR and I come in and you've got like full beam lights on in a fine dining restaurant, or your logo looks like it's castor oil, but it's a sugary drink, or whatever. You've kind of got to get that work sorted out by yourself, or work with a really good branding or design agency to do that first. Just makes everything so much smoother. So there are no shortcuts, really. But on a kind of, to make it not seem like so much like hard work, you just have to trust yourself and go with what you know. And if you think, I don't really know about that, I'm not sure. I see menus a lot as well there's too much on them, they're too fussy. And once you've pointed it out and once you've helped to reduce the menu down, they're like, I knew that's what I wanted, but I just didn't. I thought, I was thinking about, you're trying to think about every single customer that you have and be something to everyone. But if you think about it, the best places that you go, the best experiences you have, people are quite confident and self-assured with what they do. And then thinking about ways to grow your business with PR. So it really does depend on how the business works, how I work with the client. Some people just, they're little human dynamites and they're doing so much by themselves. But quite often, and this is a thing that I see a lot, people do their own PR. They get really enthusiastic about it. They've got a million ideas. They're putting things on Eventbrite. They're updating the website every 5 seconds, and then either something else happens, they go on holiday, or they run out of ideas, or they get burnout. So there's that consistency, and that momentum just falls flat. So one thing about having an agency working with, or just identifying someone in-house who's going to do it, or you could be doing a contra deal with someone. You've got a niece who's studying marketing or something, she can come in and help you. But take it seriously. Yeah. It's not the kind of little fluffy bow on the top of your business. It isn't. It has to be, you know how your culture is and how it's going to work. Some people don't want to let everyone in on it. Although I have WhatsApp groups with clients, and they're the ones that really work. When everyone on the floor, people in the management, the owners, have all got access to this, and we're all sharing information. And if something, I kind of the final editor of what's going to get put out on social media, or, and then I can make a nice little bank of stories. But doing that, I find doing it in a team way is a very, very good way of doing it. So if you've got, even if you're sort of outsourcing some of the things that are an element of your event or your tour or your hotel, your restaurant, whatever, I just asked a wine supplier to write a blog for a client, and they're delighted to be asked. We're driving traffic to them, Just think, there's always a way of sort of extracting stories.
It's not just about your business, it's asking your own partners and suppliers.
Exactly, precisely. I've just written down here my note, in-house burnout. So I think I kind of covered that, but there is a kind of element of that. So moving it out and speaking to your suppliers, your customers is quite a good way of avoiding that, I think. I'm actually liking my little notes here. Bland posts. So what happens when you've got your niece come in to do marketing, just sitting at her desk 2 hours a day, thinking, right, I've got to come up with social media for my uncle's restaurant this week. What am I going to do? The uncle's gone away on holiday for 2 weeks, left her with nothing. She's not really communicating with the on-the-floor staff. So she looks out the window and she goes, oh, it's raining. Come in and have a hot chocolate. It's cold outside. Who wants to read that post, really? Unless it's the most amazing picture of a hot chocolate, and you've got. And this is such a common. You're actually better to sort of not say anything almost, or rehash something from before. So try, avoid that at all costs. That sort of bland posting. It just makes me depressed. It's so sad. It's awful. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you see it on your social media feeds? And it's like, it's cold outside, come in and have a hot drink. Right, great, is it? Okay. It's not really going to drive you to go in. Come up with something a bit better than that. And then another point that I just want to make quickly before the first slide goes up is to see it as an investment. And it's not just a financial investment, it's a time investment. It's something that you have to. You can't say, right, we're going to get some PR and then go and hand it off and think, well, that's it, they're going to do it. You have to invest it. You really have to invest in it. And it's like most things, you get what you pay for. If you're going to say to someone, well, I really want you to do some PR, but we can only do it for 2 months and I'm going to be away, can you do it? It's not. You're not going to get the same results if you say, I want you to really be dedicated on this campaign for at least 6 months or a year. I want you to really get into the business and look at all the areas, and you're going to get more for your money.
Yeah, because it will definitely have because it's more long term, you have to have that strategy in place for a good 6 months, a year, as you say. It's like you do the same with marketing and stuff. It's like there's no point trying to do something for 2 or 3 months and it just suddenly disappears.
No.
Oh!
Well, while we wait on there's someone coming along, it was going to be a slide of a TED talk, and I just thought it would just be good for you to take a picture so you could watch it. So this is where I always start with the client, and it's photography. It's absolutely, people say content is king. You can kind of get away with rubbish content, but you can't get away with rubbish photography ever, or videography. I tend to work more with photography. So the slide is a TED talk on how photography connects us by David Griffin, who is the photo director at National Geographic. So it's got nothing to do with PR, but it's got everything to do with understanding photography and how the kind of ability that a single image can have in communicating something. It's I don't think there's any writers in the audience. I know Amanda's a writer, but is anyone else? Yeah. So if you're given something, or you can imagine being a journalist even, you've got this amazing event to sell or whatever, and you don't have an image to go with it.
Yeah.
Not going to write about it. You sent the amazing image with it. You're 10 steps ahead of everyone else who's got the kind of, the same image that they've sent. It's really, 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 really important. I'm going to give you an example. Actually, my sister was away at the weekend and she sent me a link on Sunday night, just the hotel that she stayed at in Cumbria. She lives in Cumbria, but she went to a hotel in Cumbria because that's what you do. But it was a really lovely place, and I could read between the lines, and I could see what kind of it was. Understated. It was, I think it called the Boar's Head or something. It was the kind of place that might have been on the trip, but not. It was that kind of vibe. But the photographs were. They were good. A professional had definitely gone in and taken these photos. The whole marketing conversation was probably, those photos will do. That's great. It's clean, it's tidy, but there was no life in it. There was no element, and it doesn't need to be a populated shot. Because I know they can be really difficult to do, and actually they can backfire and they can look really cheesy, central. But what I often do is find just a member of staff so you can get an idea of the tone of the uniform, and it doesn't have to be. They can be blurring or setting a table or just something to give you a bit of atmosphere, or take an angle that's got a bit of foliage you're looking through, or just not that is the room and that's what it looks like. And my sister got and I was thinking, she got a good deal on that hotel. Why are they having to do that? Why are they not getting their full rate? And I thought, well, I should just phone them up and say, sort your photography out. And so you spend all this time doing all the other elements, buying in the ingredients, cooking them from scratch, and then something like the photography, which is the very first thing someone is going to see, is sort of not taken as seriously. It's a shame. And just thinking about photography as well. So your customer isn't going to analyse it in that detail, but what the customer does know, what's a bad photo, they'll know that, even if they're really artistically hindered. They'll know the difference between a bad photo, a good photo, and a great photo. Instinctively, they will just know, because we're looking at images from the day we're born, and we know what's good, and we know what's used in these kind of situations. So even if you yourself maybe aren't 100% sure on this element, get a good photographer, get someone like me and to do the brief and do the art direction. it's one of the best investments you'll ever make. And you could, I mean, if you do it well as well, and your product's not going to change too much, I mean, this could be lasting you for a very long time. Another thing that I see quite a lot with clients, you know, they're reluctant to maybe spend in some areas, but this is what I call advertising scaremongering. So there's, you know, there's an amazing deal. This advert should be £2,000, but if you book it by 5 o'clock today, this is at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's £200. And people, you know, you think that's maybe not, that adds up when clients keep doing that, and it's kind of throwing your money away. And I'm really confident about saying no. When they say, what do you think of this lead? No. What do you think? No. No, because it's not consistent. If you're going to spend like that, you need to, as you know, invest in a strategy. You know where it's going to be placed, who's going to be looking at it, who the target audience is. Just thinking of you're saving £1,700 here and there, it really adds up. And when I had the guest house, we inherited it with an RAC membership, an AA membership, and a Scottish Tourist Board membership, pre-Visit Scotland days. And the bills were coming in, and it was like the second year, and I'm thinking, what am I actually getting for the RAC membership, apart from, you know, the plaque outside, an entry in the guide? I couldn't work it out. We only had 5 letting bedrooms, that's enough, and, you know, on a Tuesday in the middle of December, you're not going to be full occupancy. So, so I just made a decision, and it was kind of based on instinct. The Scottish Tourist Board's the only one I can really connect with. They've got an office in the town. I can, you know, get them down here, show them round the guest house, show them what I've got for sale, really start to make a connection with them. Okay, I'm then going to spend, I think it was 10%, something like that, of the room. But what I got was loyal customers off that who didn't go through the Scottish Tourist Board. I got a real face. I got real people to speak to. It was, you know, quite a good decision just to go. No, not interested. So, I would. There's a Visit Scotland guy here. Yeah, sorry, I'm looking right at you. I was going to say I'm going to. So if you're going to do, if you are going to invest in a membership of something, do it properly. Don't be sort of scared or bullied, if you like, into what you're going to be missing out on. Choose one thing and do it well. So if it's Visit Scotland that you're a member of, get to know your industry relationship person. Get your bloody money's worth. Get photography done that they'll want to use in a campaign. Get all those fam trips sorted out. Get your PR agency. Like I work with Visit Scotland PR teams in Edinburgh, and you know every time there's a journalist coming on, you know someone coming from Australia, an amazing influencer from China, they're on the phone or they're emailing me and they're putting me in touch with these people. Stick to that. Yeah. Do it. You know, see that as one thing that you feel you have to kind of stick with what you. I hate to say this, but I have had clients over the years that have gone, I don't know why I pay my membership for Visit Scotland or another thing they're a member of. And if you feel like that, pull out of it. Don't do it. But you invest that energy on something that you do get some what you feel is value back for your money. So
well, I don't know how long this is going to take the slides and stuff like that. So, in terms of the PR side of things, you know, obviously, is there any sort of really good success stories you can share that you've had with your own customers, or things that you've maybe seen from other agencies that you thought worked really, really well in terms of PR?
Well, what I was really hoping to do is lead on to the storytelling aspect of what it is that you're doing, and that kind of worked in with the slide that I was going to put up. But I think the best success stories I've seen is where there's been a journey. You kind of see you can see where the idea for the business has come from through some form of storytelling. Simplify your message. Don't assume that people know what it is that you do. Get it as kind of simple as possible, if you like. Like something like, we believe that food should be served in this way. We really believe that family is at the heart of our business. You know, make that message really consistent and keep repeating it. I think sometimes people think, well, we've told that story once, we did an interview once with that. It's, you know, it's kind of old hat. But I liken it to when you're a child and you have a grandparent's got a story that they tell you that you love to hear over and over again. Or you maybe say to your mum, can you tell me what I did when I was 2? You know, that funny story, I love it, I want to hear it again. And I'm not thinking that your customers are, if you're doing a masterclass or an event or something, are necessarily going to want to hear you say exactly the same story, but you need to weave it in to your messaging and weave it into what you're doing consistently. So I really do see results and happy clients when they're doing that, to be honest. I think they get something out of it. 'Cause it's not just about, you don't just have a business to make money. I mean, that's obviously important, but a business is about so much more than that, and it's about feeling connected to what you do, feeling at the end of the day that you've made the right career choice, all of these things. But there's a guy called, now I'm not going to remember his name, Tom, I was telling you about him on the phone. His company's called Marketunist.com. Absolutely brilliant. You get one cartoon a week, basically taking the piss out of marketing. It's fantastic. And there's, you know, over time they really build up, and they're so true. And there's a really good story that goes with each cartoon as well. But the one that came up was a guy sitting reading a bedtime story to his children, and it says something like, you know, and the brand was this, and it did really well, and it had 50% better sales than last year, and all the consumers lived happily ever after at the end, and the kids are saying, this is boring, Dad, I want Mum. You know, so no one wants to hear a story like that, do they? So, you know, it's depressing. I don't actually really care, unless, I remember actually a journalist telling me right at the beginning, when I was forced to sell in a press release to a journalist. And he said, yeah, I'm going to need figures here, Lee. And he said, you know, in a nutshell, unless your client's done something amazing like quadrupled their turnover in 6 months, or, you know, we're talking 6, 7 figures, I'm not interested, you know. So it's, you kind of, it's maybe great for you, but you have to think, is the customer really interested? Probably not. But here's another little recommendation for you, this book here, called, that was on a slide as well. It's called Do Story. I don't know if you've heard of the Do Book Company and the Do Lectures, but look them up. So this, I'm going to read a little bit from here on the craft of story writing. Kipling, that great master of storytelling, if ever there was one, understood that stories must have a basic structure and answer the fundamental questions: who, what, when, where, why, how. This framework is drunk like mother's milk by all news reporters from day one of their coverage of any story they tell. As Sergeant Joe Friday would say in his deadpan voice in the US crime show Dragnet, just give me the facts, ma'am, just the facts. However, Kipling also knew that it is what lies behind these facts that creates the emotional connection. And that is the key to great storytelling, or as I call it, the story behind the story. So just that, I love that, the facts behind, what lies behind those facts is what creates the emotional connection. And I think if you can find that, you're on the right track. And everyone's got an emotional connection somewhere. All businesses have a way of emotionally connecting with whatever it is that they're offering or selling, whatever service they have.
Tourism,
yeah.
so important.
So yeah, just thinking about a question that we'll probably all get asked every time we go to a restaurant is, what was it like? And even me as a foodie, and I was asked it actually on Monday night in my fitness class. Someone asked where I'd been for dinner on Friday night. What was it like? Oh, it was really good. It was great. And you know, we all do it. But there's one of the most memorable restaurants I've eaten at recently was in Valencia, but it's because the whole build-up to it had a story behind it. I met a guy in a shop, he told me all about this restaurant and told me about the family, the generation of families that ran it. And then it was so unassuming from the outside and probably never would have gone in. It was quite intimidating, actually. But then we sat at the bar and we watched it, and just because we knew this little bit of backstory behind it, we were thinking, is that the dad? And then actually the daughter was sitting next to us after her shift and she was having some wine and we could see what she was looking up on her. She was buying clothes on her computer, but it just added, so that it was so much more than just the food that we were eating. There was this real kind of feeling of pride almost that we'd been part of this family experience. Or if we didn't know any of that, if we just went in, we would have thought, well, this place is just a bit boring. We wouldn't have known. Last year we did the launch for Fazenda in Edinburgh. Has anyone been? Does anyone know what it is? Well, if you'd been to visit Fazenda and anyone said to you, oh, I've been to Fazenda, what was it like? You wouldn't know where to start answering that question. There's the biggest salad bar, like the size of this room with everything on it. The meat comes out. It's a Rodizio-style Brazilian restaurant on skewers, and it's carved at the table, and you take it with tongs. And it's a real experience. But that is PR. They have, I want to get this right, but I think it's 174-ish covers that they can sell 3 times a day. So lunch and twice at dinner, and they do it. Because people are going away and talking about this experience and the word of mouth. And a big part of our PR campaign for that, at the client's request, but brilliantly at their request, was bringing people in to the business. Actually, the PR, what you would typically think of as PR, wasn't a big part of it at all. They weren't that bothered about the coverage. It was about connecting with people, bringing people through the door, those relationships. It's really, so in terms of a success story, I'm thinking restaurants are closing in Edinburgh. This is going to be hard, and it's killing it. It's totally killing it. So I suppose what you need to do is kind of figure out what's interesting about what it is that you do, because you market your own company, Chris. So you're finding really interesting ways of doing that, because you're like a natural. Yeah. So you're doing it sort of by, what's the word? Osmosis. You're not. Is it osmosis? I don't know. Yeah. So you're not doing it really obviously, but it's are there events? Are there collaborations you can have? I love a collaboration. Everyone's collaborating, but I don't think that's ever going to stop. I think that's just started, and it'll be a fixture, because it's like everything in life. It's better you don't have a party and just invite people that you're really going to get on with. If you want it to be a good party, you want a mix, and you think about your guests and you think about who they're. So it's the same with your PR. Try and what could you do with who could you collaborate? I mean, you and I could have a long conversation about how you could collaborate with your 4x4, how you can marry up your photography and your 4x4s. I mean, it's exciting. That's how you should feel about it, rather than, I don't know what to do. There's another 5 businesses like me. There's another 10 guest houses on my street. So how can I do anything differently? Rubbish. There's meeting people, talking to people, cross-pollinating ideas. One thing will lead to another. I've got so many stories about this of people that have said, go to that event. And they go to the event and they're under duress, and they've come away with completely changing what they've got on their menu. A column in a magazine. It's incredible how sometimes that's a good thing about PRs. They can give you a bit of a boot up the backside to get out there and try, but not try, but harder, but just try and see things with fresh eyes, I think.
I would like to open up the questions to the audience, which Jess will get ready with the mic, so if you've got a question, please raise your hand. But before we go on to the audience, is there one piece of advice you give someone if they wanted to start off up in PR? What would be the one piece of advice?
I think do it from your heart. This word heart keeps coming up. I think it has to be real, and this word's bandied about a lot, but have integrity and authenticity. That's the number one thing. And then you'll sort of be guided from there just naturally and instinctively. Ask someone how they do it. Ask someone you admire. Ask a friend who's maybe is further up with their marketing. Don't be afraid to ask people to share how they've done it, but do it from the heart, or it won't work.
So said. Man.
Thank you very much. That was great. I just wanted to first reinforce what you said about basically being a therapist and trying to get companies, entrepreneurs to really talk through what they are all about and what the story is. Because I think so many of us don't realize the story that we have, and especially if you're not a writer, if you're not a marketer, by training or by interest, it's really difficult to find that story until someone draws it out of you. So your role is vital in that. I just wanted to reinforce that. But can you maybe walk through what it's like to work with a PR agency? Because I think a lot of small businesses, especially in travel and tourism, we kind of overlook that aspect of it. So maybe you can go through like what it's like to approach someone like you and what that would do for the business.
Absolutely. In an ideal world, we wouldn't, sometimes you can hit the ground running and if someone's already established, that's maybe a different story. But if it's somebody who's, like, they know what they're doing, they know exactly what they've got to sell, they're launching a restaurant, we do a lot of restaurant launches. If they know all of that already, then that's a slightly different, it's more like me saying, this is what I need from you, tick's more of a tick list of things, and then I kind of get on with it and do it. If it's something that's new a bit to a business in their way of working, if that's the question you're asking, then it is really like doing a kind of MOT, I suppose, of the business. First thing is for me to cast my eyes over as much as the customer will see everything. Their social media, I'll look right back in time. I'll look and see what kind of comments they've had, TripAdvisor, all of this kind of information, and get a kind of picture of them. Then see what the client feels the problem areas are, because obviously you've got to work with a client. You can't sort of go in and tell them you need this to do that, and then you find some sort of compromise. But then, working through website, the layout of the website, the copy, the photography, all of that kind of stuff, I mean, that would probably take up 2 or 3 months to begin with on a normal rate, unless, it depends what kind of agency you're working with. If you've got someone who's maybe not got many other clients, like when I first started, I would do more for a client for less money, because you kind of do that when you're starting. Whereas now it would probably be more like a 2 to 3 month job. Then you start to look at, what kind of, you start to get into a groove, and you're eking out those stories, and where you think might be somewhere you can place that client, where they can talk about their story. If they're doing something which to them might seem quite run-of-the-mill and ordinary, I think, well, can I invite someone along? I worked with a client about 3 weeks ago a few years ago, there was a sort of a mini award ceremony that they hosted in one of their venues. And years ago, we maybe would have brought lots of press into that and made it a bigger event, but we just went really small, and we sold the story to Scottish Field, and they made a film, and it was amazing. And because there were so many people at the event that we could tag into this film, they went really, really good value out of this little bit of PR. Then there was a magazine, so someone in print and a blogger doing online. They weren't really intrusive on the night, it kept the event very intimate, but it meant we built up a really strong relationship. So, yeah, ideally we would be doing that slowly, and then clients build up those relationships and kind of get to know what will work. And instead of having to sort of say, what are the benefits of doing it this way, they kind of get to know how to work with you that way. Does that answer your question?
Well, thanks. I would ask more questions if we could, but because of the technical difficulties, we've run out of time, and I want to get Matt in here as well at some point. So, everybody come back, give a massive thank you to Lee. If you get any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you.